Have you ever told your story publicly before?
I've never told my story publicly. You know, anytime I would have an audition or anytime I needed to work on dialogue or anything, I somehow ended up back at Brian's house. And it just got worse and worse and worse.
It truly shocks me the amount of times I've made Dan Schneide references throughout, the thousands of videos that are public on this channel. And what surprises me is that I've never made a full dedicated video about Dan Schneide and what's going on with him, Drake Bell, and other Nickelodeon stars coming forward talking about their horrible experiences, not only with Dan Schneide, but with other creeps and freaks such as Brian Peck. I've been looking at this for the last 2 to 3 days. And just look at this guy right here. This is that guy who went to jail for a few months after, and I don't even have to say allegedly, after he sexually assaulted Drake Bell. Sometimes you can just tell when you're looking at a creep. This guy just has a pedophile face, if you will. Some people can hide it, and some simply cannot, and well, this guy known as Brian Peck is one of them. And this is when we get into the whole Dan Schneide situation. He was the producer behind some of Nickelodeon's biggest shows, Kenan and Kel, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, iCarly, Victorious, Sam and Cat, which flopped. So yeah, he had a pretty big role when it comes to working at Nickelodeon. He had a pretty comfortable seat. Now, everyone here and their mama knows exactly how much of a freak Dan Schneide is, and this picture, I don't even have to say anything. There's legitimately no reason why this needed to be filmed. Dan Schneide was extremely, and I mean extremely, into feed. If you search up Dan Schneide feed, I mean, here we have another one. Here we have another example of Dan Schneider's foot fetish. And here we have another example. You get the point. And of course, everyone knows about this image. This image right here straight up feels illegal. I feel like I'm going to jail just for looking at it. So I'm just gonna stop right here. You get the point. Dan Schneide, huge creep. And yesterday, Dan Schneide responded. He made this video called Dan Schneide Talks About Quiet on the Set. And in case you guys don't know, Quiet on the Set is a show that's going on Max, I believe, where they're getting Nickelodeon stars such as Drake Bell to talk about their experiences working at Nick. I mean, just take a look at this clip.
It was a different time, so I think it was a little easier to go to and from a courthouse and not worry about Twitter that night or TMZ paparazzis being there. On the day of sentencing for Brian, I get to the courthouse. It was the most unbelievable thing I'd ever seen. His entire side of the courtroom was full. Full. There were definitely some recognizable faces on that side of the room. And my side was me, my mom, and my brother.
I'm sure some top Nick executives were right there to protect this fucking creep that is Brian Peck. And like I said, he did go to jail. He is a convicted sex offender. He was arrested on August 19, 2003 for lewd conduct with a minor. And then this is where it gets crazy. After his release, he was hired to work on the Disney Channel Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. He did voiceover for 3 episodes, but was later fired by Disney after his conviction came up.
Brian had been convicted, but getting all of this support from a lot of people in the industry, and yeah, I was pretty shocked. My mom got up, she had a statement. I wasn't going to address Brian. There was no reason to. I addressed my statement to everyone in the room. I looked at all of them, and I just said, "How dare you?" And I said, "You will forever have the memory of sitting in this courtroom and defending this person. And I will forever have the memory of the person you're defending violating me and doing unspeakable acts and crimes. And that's what I'll remember."
I don't know if this is a hot take, controversial take that's gonna get me hate or criticism, but at this point, I don't really care. Anyone who ever harms a kid physically should honestly be given the electric chair. And I will not hear anyone out. You literally ruin kids' lives. Jail is not enough, honestly. A year is nothing. 6 years is nothing. You potentially ruined that person's life forever, and you only do 6 years? Nah, dude, you get the fucking electric chair. You're done. You need to be cooked. This is where we get into Dan Schneide and his video. I just wanted to give you guys some context of what's going on with everything.
Hey, it's Boogie. I played Tebow on Nickelodeon's iCarly.
Nah, not fucking Tebow. No, Tebow. Go back to making smoothies. This ain't it.
I got a chance to watch the Quiet on Set program, and I reached out to Dan to see if it was something that he'd be willing to discuss. I'm pleased to say that he said yes.
You know, I don't want to keep cutting in every 5 seconds, but it's like, what other choice does he have? Right now, he's being completely cooked by everyone online. He did it because he needed to respond. What do you mean? It seems like this guy say, whoa, we are blessed by his presence. Thankfully, he's going to give us some time to respond to everything that's going on Quiet on the Set.
Dan, how are you?
I'm okay. I really appreciate you reaching out and giving me the opportunity to talk to you about what we saw over the last 2 nights.
I'm really glad you're here because I believe this is important.
For sure.
We've got a lot of things to unpack. But before I dive into my list of topics that I'd like to discuss, is there anything you'd like to start off with?
Absolutely. Watching over the past 2 nights was very difficult. Me facing my past behaviors, some of which are embarrassing and that I regret. And I definitely owe some people a pretty strong apology.
Let's talk about the massages.
Okay.
Watching the content yesterday, it was disturbing.
It was wrong. It was wrong that I ever put anybody in that position. It was the wrong thing to do. I'd never do it today. I'm embarrassed that I did it then. I apologize to anybody that I ever put in that situation. And even additionally, I apologize to the people who were walking around Video Village or wherever they happened, because there were lots of people there who witnessed it who also may have felt uncomfortable. So I owe them an apology as well.
Yeah. Dan, talk to me.
So this guy sucks as an interviewer. Like, I know this is like the most tight, sealed interview of all time. Of course he's not going to ask hard-hitting questions. Shouldn't you go in deeper than this? Not just like, okay, let's move on to something else. It's like, I know what they're doing here, and I hate it. I hate this fucking BS half-mid apologies, and I'm sorry, guys. Just imagine being on the set, and you see random-ass women massaging this guy's back.
Dan, talk to me about the writer's room. From what I saw, not cool.
No, and I don't mean to cut you off, but if I can cut right to the chase, let me just say, no writer should ever feel uncomfortable in any writer's room, ever, period, the end, no excuses. Most TV writers, comedy writers have been in writers' rooms, and they are aware that a lot of times there are inappropriate jokes made and inappropriate topics come up. But the fact that I participated in that, especially when I was leading the room, it embarrasses me. I shouldn't have done it. And I can tell you why it hurts really bad for me. I remember very clearly my early experiences, my first experiences in the entertainment business. I was green, I was scared, I was excited. It meant the world to me that I was getting those opportunities. And I went in and I got lucky because they were great. My first couple of experiences were fantastic. And the fact that I didn't pay that forward to every employee that walked through my door, it hurts my heart because I should have. And I wish I could go back and fix that. In the writer's room, there's no doubt that sometimes those jokes went beyond the pale, and I said things that went too far or made practical jokes that went too far.
Well, I mean, a practical joke like watching Ariana Grande kind of stroking a potato, insinuating that could be a penis, 1,000-foot shots. So, like, how many oopsies can you excuse? Like, one, it's okay, but you have a document to history. Stop trying to play it innocent. Like, oh yeah, sorry, if it looked like that.
I was immature, wouldn't happen today, but I'm just really sorry it happened.
AKA, I was running all of these shows, Sewing 101, iCarly, Victorious, Drake and Josh. I was making Nickelodeon millions. I was making millions. My ego was through the roof, and I treated people like shit. That's what he's trying to say, but I'm just like, this is like the BS filter.
Thousands of people have worked with you, for you.
Okay.
Let's speak directly to the people who did not have a good experience with you.
Okay, I would like to speak to those people because I hate that anybody worked for me and didn't have a good time. You know me, you've been on my sets. Look, I've had some employees that have worked with me for 10 years, some more than 20 years, who would work with me again, but not everybody. There's still a significant number that didn't have a great time working for me, so my batting average isn't nearly high enough in that area. And the way they wouldn't get the best of me is that I would let the pressure of doing 40 or even more episodes per year, I would let that pressure get to me, which a good boss should never, ever do.
Was there specific things that you were doing?
Sure, I would snap at people sometimes. I would be snarky when I could have given them a nicer answer. I would not give people the time that they needed. I would be in too big a hurry to get on to the next thing I had to do. And watching that show, it made me, there were so many times I wanted to pick up a phone and call some of those people and say, I'm so sorry and let's talk about it. And I wish you'd had a better time and I wish I could have shown you a better experience.
This is the part that I'm like, okay, I kind of get it, right? You're stressed, you're on that grind, you're working on 40 episodes per year, you're running all of these crazy shows, successful shows, you're gonna meet deadlines. I get that. That's like valid, right? Well, I'm not saying to scream at your employees and make a toxic work environment, what I'm trying to say, but I get it. You can get stressed when you can scream and you can say dumb shit. I understand that. These are just like basic ass questions. Tebow is taking that huge L. I don't think being an interviewer is his thing. I think running a smoothie shop in Seattle might be a better fit for him. So far, these are like the softest questions possible. We all know what we want to ask him. We all know what the number one question is. What's with all the foot stuff? What's with all the sexualizing minors? That's what we want to talk about.
Here we are. Some people think that some of those jokes are inappropriate for children. What do you think of that?
All these jokes that you're speaking of, that the show covered over the past 2 nights, every one of those jokes was written for a kid audience because kids thought they were funny and only funny, okay? Now we have some adults looking back at them 20 years later through their lens, and they're looking at them and they're saying, oh, you know, I don't think that's appropriate for a kid show. And I have no problem with that. If that's how anyone feels, let's cut those jokes out of the show. Just like I would have done 20 years ago or 25 years ago. I cut it. I want my shows to be popular. I want everyone to like it. The more people who like the shows, the happier I am.
Yeah.
So if there's anything in a show that needs to be cut because it's upsetting somebody, let's cut it.
So I think it's big for you to say with your work, if it's viewed as that today, you don't have a problem.
Cut it. Cut it.
I mean, that's a solution.
The last thing I want to ever do
Yeah.
is put any content in a show that's going to upset my audience and make them want to turn off the TV. Why would I ever want to do that?
We're not mad at the edgy whatever jokes there might be on the shows. The issue here, once again, is all the feet stuff. Like, it's not the edginess from the early 2000s that's a problem. The problem is the sexualization of those kids, of those, you know, teens or whatever you guys want to call them. We don't really care if there's like a haha funny edgy joke. That's not the issue here. It would be a lot better if you guys talked about what kind of jokes, because like you guys said, 2 episodes, a lot of context, a lot of content. A joke is not, let's spray Ariana Grande with water. That's not a joke. That's where the issue is. We don't care about little edginess here and there.
The darkest part of this series discussed child predators. Now, I want to make sure that we clear a couple of things up.
Okay?
Brian Peck was not hired by you.
No, I did not hire Brian Peck.
This was a Tolan Robbins production?
Yeah. And when Drake and I talked and he told me what had happened, I was more devastated by that than anything that ever happened to me in my career thus far. And I told him, I'm here for you. What do you need? Which Drake mentioned in the show that we watched last night. And next, I heard that he went to court when this guy was being tried, Peck. And when Drake walked in, he saw 50 people sitting on the side of the courtroom supporting Peck. A lot of them pretty famous. Of course, Drake was devastated that that happened. And even more disappointing, 41 of those people wrote letters for Peck, character letters, praising him for who he was and asking for leniency, and they knew that he was guilty. They knew he had confessed to some degree, and they still did this. That's baffling that adults would do that.
I don't want to be like, but why didn't you? But, and I think the situation is warranted and valid. If you knew that Drake Bell was alone with his mom and brother against 40 other people, high-ranking people, why didn't you back up Drake Bell? Like, your career would have never been over. I mean, you were, you know, at your peak at that point, 2002, 2003. You could have helped out tremendously, yet you sit it out, and you're like, yeah, you know, I got you. You know, I got you, Drake Bell. And you can't show up for that, to defend him, to be on his side. I think if that would have happened, a lot of things would have switched for the best. Dan Schneider's reputation would have been a lot better. Look at this tweet that's going viral right now. All these men wrote letters of support for 41-year-old Brian Peck, the guy who sexually assaulted Drake Bell and others, after it was revealed that he was R-wording Drake Bell from the ages 14 to 15. Imagine knowing that a 41-year-old was raping a 14-year-old, and you still write letters to the judge so he can get less time or he can get no time at all. Fucking disgusting.
I don't know if people know this, but Drake's mom, a lovely woman who I stay in contact with this day, she came to me at the time and she said, Dan, I'm not good with words like you are. And would you help me with my speech for the judge? And I said, of course. And I did. And he ended up going to prison and serving his time. And yeah, that was probably the darkest part of my career.
I mean, if you feel that bad about it, if Drake Bell's mom was hitting you up and you felt so bad, why not show up? Like, that's my question. Why didn't you go? Were you told not to go by Nickelodeon? If I tell someone, yo, I'm here for you, whatever you need, and then their mom calls me personally telling me, yo, can you help me write my statement to go, you know, against the judge or whatever, I would show up. If we're such a good friends, I'm 1,000% showing up to support you and be on the right side of history. Hopefully he tells us why. That'd be great to know. Honestly, this does not change my mind about Dan Schneide. I still think he's a disgusting freak. This guy's not innocent, and just because he cried here or looks innocent or looks like he did nothing wrong and just trying to help, this interview was mid, and honestly, fuck Tebow and his smoothie shop. Anyway, subscribe, like, share, notifications on, and I'm out. Peace.